Waking up early on a Saturday morning, springtime, to head out to the field with your glove and bat for many little leaguers is where the big league dreams begin. Parents, friends, and family come out to support what could be the next big superstar in the major leagues. Little league fields across the globe have created lifelong bonds, friendships, and legacies that carry on into adulthood. For many, Little League is the end all be all for playing the sport that produces some of the highest paid athletes in the world. But one thing is for certain, even if you move on to the next level of continuing your baseball career, the professional league only sees .003 Little Leaguers stepping on a major league field. But do not be discouraged. Little League is where I played on the Oakland Athletics with the son of one of the greatest pitchers of all time, James Rodney Richard, or at the time as he was known to me, Coach. The Baseball Hall of Fame honors the best and most influential players in the history of Major League Baseball. Pitching is arguably one of the most crucial components of winning in the professional league. The list of pitchers in the modern era with back-to-back seasons with 300-plus strikeouts is a who's who of some of the greatest flamethrowers. Randy Johnson, Sandy Koufax, Nolan Ryan, Curt Schilling, and Rube Waddell composed the list of Hall of Fame players with this accomplishment, but the sixth pitcher with consecutive 300 strikeout seasons may have for a time been as good as any of them. A tragic stroke, however, left J.R. Richard confined to baseball's greatest what-if list.
His fastball travels to the plate at close to 100 miles an hour. For 10 years, he's either been at the top in strikeouts or close to it.
Then in 1978, Richard became the first right-hander in National League history to strike out over 300 batters in a single season. The next year, he was even better, and it didn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that the Astros were poised to take off.
My dad was the greatest. Like, I ain't never seen nothing like it. A man that's throwing 103 to 105, you know what I'm saying, 6'8", you know what I'm saying? He was the truth. He was, you know what I'm saying, he was that guy. You know what I'm saying? I wanted to be like him, but you know what I'm saying? Unfortunately, life just didn't happen the way I wanted it to happen.
J.R. Richard had a record-breaking season in 1979. His ability to overpower batters with his fastball and devastating slider made him a strikeout machine. Richard finished the season with an ERA of 2.71, which was one of the best in the National League. His ability to dominate hitters while keeping runs to a minimum helped solidify his place as one of the top pitchers in the game. After a record-breaking season in 1979, the Houston Astros had two of baseball's best pitchers. J.R. Richard was signed to a max 4-year, $3.2 million contract with the Astros, while Hall of Famer Nolan Ryan signed a 4-year, $4.5 million deal. This further proves the caliber pitcher J.R. Richard was in the major league.
There were some of us who tried to get J.R. to wait until Nolan Ryan signed his contract in 1979, 1980, because we knew one of the two were going to have the record-setting contract. And the Dodgers, Atlanta, the Yankees, and all of those type teams were interested in J.R. Richard. But J.R. was influenced by his agent at that time to sign his contract early, and he signed for $800,000. Nolan Ryan came back about a month later, or within a month later, and signed for $1 million. And we always said that if J.R. had waited, he would have broke the record that Nolan Ryan set that particular year.
J.R. Richard made his first and only All-Star Game appearance in 1980 at the peak of his career. It was a well-deserved recognition for one of the most intimidating and talented pitchers of his era. In the 70s, not many baseball games were televised live. Richard captured the attention of baseball fans and players across the world with a blazing fastball that reached speeds over 100 miles per hour.
And on the mound from the Houston Astros, James Rodney Richard. Richard with a record of 10-4. He comes in, however, after struggling in his last couple of starts. He has been experiencing stiffness in his right forearm. He uses the word fatigue to describe it into a high blue sky.
At the height of what would be his Hall of Fame career, J.R. Richard suffered a stroke during the 1980 season. He was practicing in the Astrodome when he started to hear a ringing noise in his left ear.
A loud pitch tone, a high-pitched ringing came in my ear, my left ear, because the brains crisscross, as you know. Well, even if you don't know, they do. So the brains crisscross, and I just said, okay, well, it's something I had before. I just shake it off and keep on going. But it didn't basically get increasingly worse. It just stayed with the loud ringing. But then I became nauseated. And then I lay down on the Astrodome floor. Jim Ewell was the Astros trainer at that time. He stayed in the stands while I was working out, and the team was going to Montreal Canada to say, if something do happen, we have a doctor on hand. And so he just came down and hollered, J.R., you all right? J.R., you all right? J.R., you all right?
Back in the day when my father was throwing, he did tell them that, his shoulder was hurting. They didn't believe it, just a simple fact that, they just thought that he just didn't want to play or just didn't want to pitch. But literally on the cool, like his shoulder really was hurting. That's what really caused him to stroke.
The media often portrays racial and ethnic groups through harmful or one-dimensional stereotypes. J.R. Richard was no exception to the media scrutiny by journalists during the 1970s.
Well, it had to be a racial element from the press. The press were terrible. They had a guy that probably, I don't think he missed a turn at all in his spot in the rotation. And then all of a sudden they're saying that it was drugs. He didn't want to pitch. He was mad at somebody. And I'm sitting there, I'm looking at this, and I said, well, we're not going by the facts here. This guy's never missed a start. He's never begged off a start. He's started every game that he's been, and he's probably gone, 6, 7, 8 innings and everything. And now he says he's hurt, and nobody wants to believe him. What would you call it?
J.R. Richard's career unfortunately came to an end at the peak of his career season. After suffering a stroke, he tried to make a return to the league, but he did not have the physical abilities he once had. He was forced to officially retire in 1984 when he was released by the Houston Astros. After retiring, Richard faced personal and financial difficulties. The stroke he suffered had long-term effects on his health. In 1994, he was seen in southwest Houston, Texas, living under the underpass. His life was restored when he met the Reverend Floyd Lewis and became heavily involved in the community. He participated in youth baseball programs, coaching kids in the Houston and surrounding areas. Many baseball fans would argue if J.R. Richard continued producing stats like he once did at the peak of his career, he would have not missed the mark of being honored with the best and most influential baseball players in the history of the Major League. J.R. Richard passed away at the age of 71 on August 4th, 2021 in Houston, Texas.
Gonna take a freight train down at the station now.
Richard.